you very much. You guys
No
did the
problem at all.
main job.
No
Thank
problem
you
at
so much.
all. I'm here
Yeah,
on the call if you do need any help.
yeah,
Do let me know. You can also drop
that
me
will be
message in
great. That will
chat.
be great, Mahi. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. I
Yeah,
see two people in the waiting room as of now. So I shall I admit them or you can admit as well?
yeah. Let me try if I can admit
Sure.
all.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I'm able to do it. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Great. Great.
yeah. Thank you so much, Mahi.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Bhaskar.
Hi, Ram. Hi, Rambabu. Thank.
So, should I fire away straight away, or Bhaskar, you are on silent, so can't hear you. You're on mute. No, we can't hear you.
Am I audible, Prof, sir?
Yes,
Yes, Bhaskar.
now you're.
Yeah. So very good evening all. So just to start with, we are now 40 plus people, and we have our respected professor, Dr. Sumit Mitra from IIMK Strategic Management Department. We have all the panelists. We have Peeyush, Sriram, Vishy, and Manoj will be joining soon. We have all the organizers. We have around 40 people now, and so we can start. So it's a different kind of webinar. Where the Dronacharya of our institute, our alma mater, is talking to or questioning the Arjunas of the industry, the product management. So let's start. And Professor Mitra is our moderator. So Professor Mitra, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Bhaskar, and very warm welcome to all our panelists. So we have Sriram, Manoj, Vishy, and Peeyush with us, all senior alumni and working in the industry for many years now, and in one or the other way linked to product management. And also a very warm welcome to the audience. We have kept some opportunity for you to directly interact with our esteemed panelists. So my name is Sumit Mitra. I've been here for about 12 years now and in the strategic management department. Earlier, of course, another 6-7 years was spent in IIM Indore, which is another IIM we know which has come out at the same time. So I have, and all through I've been in strategic management. Of course, we do handle product-related issues as well. So with these few words, I think I will ask the panelists to go around and introduce themselves. Let us also know from them what is the batch from which they come, which program, and also their journey in product management. So can I start with maybe Vishy? Vishy, would you start, because in the fact you are just next to the frame. So
Sure.
Vishy, over to you.
Yeah. Hey guys, Viswanath, Vishy, 2006 IIMK. Been in Edtech since 2008. I started a early learning brand, Magic Crate, raised VC, grew that to mid-scale, and that business I exited to BYJUS in 2021. I run the BYJUS product org now, so which includes the learning app, which is perhaps the largest downloaded sort of app focused on K-12. I also run products in the live classes space, which is both the hybrid as well as the online tuitions that we run. We also run exam prep, which is known as Akash BYJUS. So all put together, these products are used by 1 million+ learners across the country. So good to be here. I think the team has put together a pretty good panel. So looking forward to this. Over to you, Professor.
Yeah. So we have immediately next to you, we have Sriram. Sriram, would you like to come on and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Professor. Hello, everybody. My name is Sriram Karra. I'm a product manager currently working in the Google in the headquarters at the Bay Area in San Francisco. I'm from the PGP 09 batch, from 2005 to 2007. And I did sort of major in finance and so also in systems, minor. from campus, I joined in IT services in Tech Mahindra, which was at a great time for Tech Mahindra. It was Satyam acquisition happened, and they were growing rapidly, and it was a great time. And then, but 5 years later, I switched to product management, and so I've been with Google for the last 7 years, and I focus on things like Google account security. So when you log into your Gmail, whether it's your workspace account or your personal Gmail account, the account security part of it and the account recovery part of it is managed by my team. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Sriram. We then have Peeyush with us. Peeyush, would you also introduce yourself?
Hey, hello everyone. This is Peeyush from PGP 11 batch, so graduated 2009. Manoj is my batchmate, and I started my career from sales. So worked with CET, and then moved into product management over a period of time. So I had 2 stints in sales, and then started working. So I made a career change from
recording in progress
to product management. I have co-founded TrueCover, which is into InsurTech, and I had been heading one of the products for a company called Yubi in supply chain finance. And if you see my profile, I have changed industries. I worked across industries. So I worked in telephony, insurance, health, cars. So I worked at Quicker and Nolarity. So probably the questions that I would love to answer are how to be resilient in different industries, and maybe how one might change career from sales or other background into a product management. Product is something, a lovely place to be in. All the best.
Yeah, thank you, Peeyush. Can I now ask Manoj? Manoj has joined us. Manoj, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Professor. Hi, everyone. This is Manoj. I am from PGP 11, 2007-9 batch. Regarding myself, before MBA, I was a programmer at Yahoo. And those days, Sriram, Yahoo used to be much bigger than Google and Facebook together. So I'm talking about those days. And post my MBA, I was fortunate to be one of the early employees with Flipkart. Those were days when Flipkart was like a small building, and there were hardly some 100 employees. So both these companies, if you know, Yahoo and Flipkart, are amazingly entrepreneurial. There are almost like 1,000 plus great companies which have come out from both Yahoo and Flipkart together. So that is how I started my company way back in 2012. So I started Xoxoday. And Xoxoday is a SaaS company which is into multiple SaaS products around employee engagement, sales commission, sales incentives, and then consumer loyalty. We are today around 500 employees based out of Bangalore, and then a couple of countries outside India. And glad to be part of this panel, and I would love to share whatever I can, both from a product perspective as well as how do you connect products with the larger goal, which is revenue, P&L, which is what is the real kind of reason why companies stay around and companies are started. Thank you.
Professor, will just take 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, and then get started.
Yes.
Hey, hi guys. Thank you all for joining in. So the format is very simple. So as requested in the survey, we picked up some questions, and then we had a couple of sessions with Professor and the panelists, and we grouped them into multiple groups, which is basically talks about how do you transition into product management career, and then what best practices you will have to adopt to basically be a successful product manager, and then how the tech trends across industries would impact product management function. So these are the key drivers in the product management discussion now. So Professor will basically have these interaction with all the panelists, and panelists would basically share their opinion on these topics. On top of it, you can post your questions on the chat, and if you are able to address, we will address a couple of them at the end of the session. And if you're not, then you can basically, if you wanted to get to know from any particular panelist, you can post it here, we'll consult it and we'll get answers for that. So the following session should basically have more specific to particular area. So yeah, Professor, you can get started.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, panelists. So what we see is we have a lot of depth in terms of experience across industries and also experience in across firms, right from entrepreneurial startups to very big, large companies like Google. So I'm hoping that we will have a very interesting discussion on product management across a wide spectrum of industries, companies, size of companies. So with this, just as Rambabu was mentioning, we will break it up into, we will approach to the futuristic part of the topic by first looking at what is happening now, what are the more big top of the mind concerns for a product manager now. And after getting the background set that way, we will move into some issues, critical issues of how to make a, given the condition now, how to make a career in product management, and then again go in and finally go into what is going to come in terms of product management, challenges to product management in future, wherein again hopefully the panelists can tell us therefore what sort of skills and capabilities you will need to manage that future that is unfolding, right? So let me begin by, I'm not going to specifically ask any question to any panelist, but I would request the panelists to jump in and make their point on the type of topic that is getting discussed, right? So first, let me begin by talking about just to understand from the panelists what, according to them, are some of the critical product management issues that are being faced by industry, by companies, and how does it look like in the type of industry you are involved in, or you were involved in the past, in terms of product management. So it's open to the panelists. Anybody would like to tell us about how it looks now? Please do start. Anybody can.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I can add.
Yes, Manoj. Please.
So see, if I have to talk about the journey of product managers globally, so way back in 1990s, I mean, the word product manager hardly existed because if you we are largely talking about software product managers here. So I'm assuming that most of the discussions are around software product managers rather than some industrial product management or FMCG product management. So 1990s, most of the software product management was nothing but project management, or maybe something like engineers doing some products together. And then somewhere around 2000 is when the real product management started, especially in the US markets, where companies like Amazon, Yahoo, Google, and a lot of others, and Microsoft, they started realizing that engineers alone can't focus upon a lot of customer centricity and a lot of UI UX related stuff which is required in products. And then somewhere around 2005 to 10 is when consumers became more and more demanding when it comes to user experience, and which is when product management really started shaping up in a very, very big way. Not only in the US market, but across all the markets globally. And then we are all consumers of mobile apps. Somewhere around 2011-12 is when mobile apps started in a very big way. And that is another dimension which got added into the schemes of product management. Now, if I had to talk about today and maybe some years down the line, I think the biggest problem product managers are facing is in terms of the rapid scale, I would say the rapid changes in the product management life cycle. So the life of a product maybe 3 decades back used to be 10 years, 15 years. Then it came down to 6 or 7 years. But today the life of a product is hardly a year. I mean, you have to constantly innovate almost like every quarter. and you have to be on your toes all the time. So it's a continuous product management cycle. Is something which is the most important thing today for product managers, and then I think that is more of a challenge as well as also an opportunity for product managers in this decade.
Let me come in here, Professor. So
Yes, please.
So again, going back to company stages, right? So if you are working with a very early stage startup where you are primarily concerned with how to drive growth, one of the large problems today is the look at the last 7-8 years. A lot of the growth has been via performance marketing, right? And that has really come into fore over the last several years. And today the CACs are the customer acquisition costs across businesses are, especially in the consumer space, the cost of customer acquisition is prohibitively high, which is the largest business model problem that most startups face, right? It's not so much a product market fit. It's around how do I acquire a consumer economically. So in a early stage startup, apart from PMF, one of the large problems is how do I diversify beyond the usual suspects of performance marketing, which is Insta, Google, Facebook. How do you sort of diversify? How do you bring network effects? How do you bring viral loops? That's something which a lot of the growth stage, early stage companies are sort of grappling with, a lot of product managers. In other industries which got a huge amount of boost from COVID, where COVID sort of changed the online behavior very dramatically, you do have some of that behavior receding. Now, if you pick Edtech, online has picked up, but today it has moved to hybrid, right? Previously people would not look at online at all. COVID changed that. But today there is a preference for hybrid and not just online. That again is a sort of very quick, like the point that Manoj was making, which is the product life cycles are changing really. A lot of that is also accentuated by external events. So a lot of behavioral change. A lot of other companies are also grappling with a lot of the internet startups which started in 2008, 2010. They have penetrated the first 20, 30 million quite well. And this is around how do you get to the next 100 million, right? Which is the Bharat versus India sort of debate. Flipkarts and Amazons have, they continue to get majority of their business from the top 20, 30 million of people. Now, how do you move to the next sort of 100 million? That's another broad theme. And I would assume someone like a Karra, someone who works with some of these large companies, the FANG companies, who make a lot of money from digital marketing revenues, they do see especially in the current funding environment, they do see very considerable pullback by various companies on marketing dollars, right? So I would assume a lot of their focus is around how do you retain revenues, how do you drive efficiency, how do you drive profitability. So I think some of these trends, what's going on in that industry is driving a lot of what product managers are today concerned about.
Yeah, add up on that. So essentially, Vishy and Manoj made very good points. And the current, I'll add on the current market scenario. So if you see from the investor perspective or from the founder perspective, this is the time when everyone is looking around profitability. So every investor is asking founders to bring profitability. The extensions are limited, the funding is limited. So it is just not the founder who is answerable for profitability. It is going down to each and every member in the team, be it sales team or be it operations team, or be it product team. Now, product team is also now have started making decisions on profitability and revenue. So they essentially become the owner. Now, these changes, as Manoj and Vishy mentioned earlier, these changes are also happening fast, along with technology, along with new businesses coming up, and so that makes product management as a function where ownership and end goal become very important, and with that comes a lot of resilience in terms of communication, in terms of strategy, in terms of what to design, in terms of how to move fast, and how to survive along with that. So it is just not so product management doesn't just remain a job of writing some specs or planning for let's say next 3 months or next 6 months, but it is more around that. So essentially, you have to think like a baniya. I think that's the word I would use, so that you can move fast along with the team, along with the company, and make a mark in your career.
Let me add just a couple of thoughts on this.
Sriram, I would like, I'm sorry I'm interjecting, but point is I would like you to bring in your context, that country, and then the size of your company. Please also bring that in.
Yeah, let me try to do that. Overall, I think the role of a product manager, was very new, like others were saying. And as sort of the overall ecosystem itself has sort of matured, the definition of product management also has sort of become more solidified. People, have different kind of expectations from what PMs should do and are. The early stages, maybe 20 years ago, nobody knew what a product manager was. So they were, a lot of them are very generalists. And Google, famously, even today, at least at the entry levels, they look for generalist skills. You don't need to have any domain expertise, and we can talk about what those skills are assessed for, etc. Later on. But in general, at least in the Valley, it's been all about generalist product management. But increasingly, and I think what I saw in at least when I was working as a PM in India about 10 years ago is that it was very similar. They were very new. As a concept as in the market. So there weren't people with a lot of experience, so they were going for generalist skills. But I think as the ecosystem evolves and it actually matures, people, you can't get away with being a generalist anymore. And you really need a significant domain expertise. And it's definitely happened here in Silicon Valley. And I'm starting to see that in India as well. As the more PMs in the market, there's more expertise, there's more depth of domain expertise. The PMs need that. You can't get away with being a generalist anymore.
So I think one interesting, some of the challenges that have come out from the discussion so far. One, product life cycles are crashing. That means shortening. They're coming down. Two, you are still required to innovate. Therefore, very high levels of innovations are required. And three, you have to get your revenues to a certain level so that costs and other things are recovered before you move on to the next product life cycle. Now, how does one balance out these challenges? In the middle of all this, you have to target your customer segment and innovate in an environment of reducing product life cycle. What is therefore a very critical challenge that comes out for a product manager from this balancing these two, three, seemingly things going in different directions?
Head northwest, then turn right.
Yeah. So
yes, Manoj.
Yeah. So see, one of the things which is very famous about product management is that product managers are mini CEOs of the companies. So they are almost the reason for success or failure per se for the company, apart from the founders and maybe the CEOs, etc. Because the product managers, if they start understanding the user very well and then tie it back with what are the macros and what are the areas where they can do well vis-a-vis the competitors, that is when company starts flourishing. So it's definitely not an easy task. And that is why product managers are also well paid. Money doesn't come easy, and I think within the IT world, product managers are one of the highest paid jobs across the world. So yes, it requires a decent hang on multiple areas, and one of the approaches which young product managers can take is, rather than just building features, which is more inwards, where you just keep building features, try to get opportunities within your company where you can also take a couple of other roles, which are, let's say, doing some sales, doing some customer success or customer care, doing contributing in the operations. Because when you start having a holistic understanding of the org, that is when product managers do extremely well, especially when the company is in a 0 to 1 or a 1 to 10 kind of a journey. I think a generalist understanding helps a lot. I mean, you can still focus on product management, but a generalist understanding helps you a lot to kind of do well for the company.
Right. So having some idea about the different functional areas before you come to manage a product per se. Right. Anybody else has any view on this? Because you have innovation, PLC is coming down. What is your experience? Anybody else in the panel?
I think, sorry, from the 0 to 1 experience, I worked in a lot of 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 companies, and a bit in 10 to 100 companies. And my experience, I think I concur with Manoj very well. Any role, I think comes with customer centricity. The essence of a business is we need to focus on customer, what the customer needs, and how can we make the money out of that need. Now, with that, we need, number one, understanding of the customer, which again, Manoj explained that you as a product manager should function in different roles, try to meet the customer or try to understand the customer depending on whether you are a B2B or a B2C, in a B2B or a B2C business. Apart from that, as a product manager, you need to do a lot of hand-holding, a lot of communication, which might get missed. You can, in fact, draw parallel to leading any organization, be it your own family or be it an institute, where if a single communication is missed, or if a single person is not educated about what the product they're going to sell or they're going to serve, that might create a lot of repercussion. Now, if that understanding goes to each and every employee in the organization, then that helps a lot in building the product right and serving the customer right. So that also means product management job also entails a lot of hand-holding, training, meeting people, communicating, working together as a team. I think those help a lot.
Yeah, so it probably is a good time to sort of quickly sort of sync up on what exactly a product manager does, right? So I think that really is at the heart of the question that Professor was asking. No, a product manager, as a product manager, regardless of the level in your org, how senior you are, or how are you an entry level product manager? A product manager is grappling with two kinds of questions. Right? One is questions about the problem space. Who is the user? What is the problem that they have? What is the problem they think they have? What is the problem they actually have? Is the buyer different from the user? What is the buyer's problem? Who is the competition? What are they charging? How can you compete, right? So what is your go-to-market strategy? So all of these are about problem space, and as you can see, this is a multidisciplinary kind of a space. You need to understand marketing, you need to understand sales, you need to understand we need to be customer centric and all of that stuff, right? The other part of it is a product manager is dealing with questions about the solution space. What solution can we build with the technology that we have today in the market? What solution can we build with the people that we have today? And do we have enough money for however long it's going to take? If it does not make sense, what is the shortest or the smallest product we can build? So these are all about questions about the solution space. Now, if you put all of this together, you cannot pick one or the other. A product manager has to have a view on all of these questions and help guide the teams towards right answers to these questions. I mean, that's what success means, right? So it is fundamentally a multidisciplinary thing. It is fundamentally about balancing all of these things, and you cannot really pick and choose which one you want to work on.
I think what Peeyush is summarily saying, the leadership type of a role, where you have to look at it from various directions. Vishy, do you have to add anything to this?
No, Professor. I think the question, the question you asked is really, I think they have sort of, everyone has articulated this pretty well. I think a good way to go about this is where it gets tricky is one, understanding the business context strategy. What I found very useful is sort of drawing out metric trees. So like Manoj was pointing out, you exist either to drive up revenues or profits, right? Those are the two sort of goals for any business, right? So there's cost of customer acquisition and there's a lifetime value. Everything that the business does is sort of subsumed in these two. Now, when the lifetime value is significantly higher than the customer acquisition cost, you have your, right? You have your profits. Now, if you draw up a metric tree, you start to understand how everything sort of plays out, and that then allows you to recognize what you need to really focus on. So in the current environment, one could say that, look, I'm doing good on revenues. I really need to get operationally efficient. So you then focus on the gross margin side of things, right? How to drive up efficiencies? How do I drive down fixed costs? I may automate a few things, etc. So I think drawing up the metric tree, and this is up to the CPO, the management team to sort of articulate to rest of the org around, make sure they understand what the metric tree looks like, where are the numbers, where do we want the numbers to get to, and everyone in the org, once they have that view, it becomes easy to align. Second thing which gets tricky in something like this is the stakeholder management, right? You have the finance team pulling in a certain direction, you have the business team pulling in a different direction, and that's where that's the tricky portion, which is, and there you cannot take sides and you argue with data, logic, frameworks, and that, and then of course the relationship that you have, how much of management you're doing offline with people, how much you're communicating, all of those things matter. Otherwise, you sort of get stuck. You're not able to make progress because you're not getting sign off. And this is true in scaled organizations, right? Organizations like BYJUS, which are just sort of matrix, which are pretty large, right? Now, in Manoj's org, a lot of the calls, they would get bubbled up to him. He'll probably debottleneck them, right? But when the org grows larger, you have deadlocks. And therefore, a clear understanding of metric tree, a clear understanding of good stakeholder management sort of helps you break out of that.
One quick question to all of you in general. When you are a product manager, what is your impression? Do they look at you as a cost center or a profit center? Or is there a transition happening between earlier being a cost center, later on becoming a profit center? What's your take on this? Anybody?
Professor, I think a lot of this is again, it depends on the company's culture. I would think in orgs like the FANG companies, product management is considered a very valuable sort of discipline. They have a high seat at the table, right? If you are a very sales driven org, product becomes a sort of support function to that, right? If you are super sales driven. Again, you are a tech driven company, product plays its role there, and so on. So really the cultural context of that company really matters on how they look at it. But
how they treat it,
how they
treat
management, very specific.
Profit or the cost.
Yeah, right, but most fundamentally, this definition of CEO of the product is the good way of looking at it, and therefore the success of the company is certainly contingent on the calls that the product management team is overall taking, and that has to align with overall strategy, priorities, context, etc., etc. But that's where that is. But how the function is viewed, I think it's a function of context within various companies. I think the others can add to this.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a very cultural thing, and also this is even in Silicon Valley, I see a lot of difference between consumer and enterprise companies. In enterprise companies, depending on if it's a mature company, customer success, or it becomes like very, very. It's not really hunting sales kind of led, but it's customer success becomes like very important. Basically they're building exactly what the customer says. So product management becomes a very diluted function. And so it's not really they won't look at it as a cost center per se, but fundamentally it impacts how much influence the product manager has in the direction of the company.
Yeah, maybe just to add on this, see, one of the things which, for example, I can talk about my company, what we have done. So in the early days of our company, I mean, when you are building products, that time I think the product managers can't really think a lot in terms of revenue, P&L, etc. So they are largely a cost center because they are just busy building the product. But once the product is built, once you have started getting customers, that is when you quickly need to flip the equation and say that, okay, now it is not only about building, but it is also about selling or marketing. And that is when you also start looking at some change in metrics. So for example, in the in the building days of a product, you might say what are the story points and what are the features you are rolling out. Rather, whereas when you are in the growth stage, you talk about MAU, DAU, MAU, DAU, maybe the revenue which is coming from the product, and whatever features then you start adding when you are in the growth stage are always looked from the lens of whether how will they help either in revenue or some specific customer problem. So I think it goes as per the life cycle of the product.
So that was that's an interesting issue, because we need to look at that. So we got a fairly good idea about product management as a role. One last question before we go into the career part of which will help our young aspiring product managers. One last role in a country like India, and I think it's valid for every size of companies. In a country like India, when the penetration of internet, mobile, everything is going deep into the rural areas, how do you think is this addressing product management issues or product related issues when you're going into tier 2, tier 3 cities going to be a challenge for a product manager, unlike selling in the big metros to your clients and customers in the big metros? What are some of the challenges you think that are going to emerge? I know Vishy has raised this issue that, simple things like how much of prepaid mobile data do you have to be able to access Edu softwares and Edu products. But I would love to hear on what you are thinking about this issue of going to the wider and deeper and backward areas of India where infrastructure may not be so strong, purchasing powers may be low. What sort of issues do you think in your type of businesses will come?
I think I'll make a point here, not directly on the product, but all of us come with a lot of biases. So product management is assumed to be a job where we are rolling out products which are used by high-tech people or people who are able to use technology. I think all of us have done a course in social transformation of India, where we were told about a lot of biases that we have as human beings. For example, I mentioned one of the things that I remember is gays or lesbians or LGBT is a metro city phenomenon. However, that is not. Similarly, use of technology or behavior of people, is it a metro city or educated people phenomena? It may be right in some cases, it may not be right in some other cases. So finding out what is the real truth there is very, very important. And that's one challenge. I think since most of us come from IIMs, we at times have biases that we would like to live in cities, we would like to interact with people in metro cities. So if we try to shed those biases, I think we will be able to figure out how our customers, end consumer behaves, or end customer behaves if they are in the real Bharat or in the hinterland. And we might have very surprising findings even there. So that's I think that's something I would like to start the discussion with. Maybe some of us can share their experiences from Bharat versus
India. The large problem in India, Professor, like you rightly pointed out, is the per capita income, right? The per capita income in India versus the US, they are orders of magnitude different, right? Which is why in the US you will find thousands of $100 million companies, $100 million companies. You will find large scaled companies in extremely niche vertical markets, right? You'll have a vertical market and a software which caters to one particular use case, and that's that generates $500 million, $600 million of revenue, sort of thing, right? And again, consumer use cases there because they have the ability to pay. So when you talk about the Bharat part of India, the unsolved business model problem that every company is grappling with is how do you monetize, right? The per capita income is very, very low. You're talking $2,000, $2,500 odd dollars, right? So now monetization, most companies have not been able to figure out, right? And if you look at some of the large social network related companies, ShareChat, all of these companies now, Cuckoo FM, and a lot of them are looking at catering to that market. Again, they have a monetization problem because they are unable to grow revenues beyond a certain point. So this is a large problem specific to India, which is how do you monetize the next set of users, which is at the heart of the whole thing. Now, they come with the devices that they are on obviously have lower processing power. There are, like I said, the data pack gets consumed and so on, right? So therefore, how you write code for them has to be fundamentally very different. It has to be very, very light, right? Otherwise, you're going to just consume all the. They're going to run out of money, or the prepaid card goes out of charge. The other is around, like Peeyush pointed out, product management is around stepping into the shoes of the users, right? It's easy for us to step into the shoes of a India consumer because we are that. Almost every person here is actually a product of IIM, grew up in a metro city, works in a metro city, parties with colleagues, etc., etc. Right? Very, very different from a Bharat sort of consumer. So stepping into that shoe is not easy. So like Peeyush pointed out, that you can only do through first-hand consumer research, right? You'll have to sit with a consumer, you'll have to look at what their life looks like. And the thing also to remember is when you're designing interfaces for them, what kind of icons are you using? What kind of colors are you using? Are these in their cultural context, right? They live life in a certain way. Now, is your design reflecting their cultural context? Also keep in mind that you cannot patronize them. All of them are aspirational, right? So these are some of the challenges. I don't think there are clear answers yet. Breakout products have not yet appeared in India, which have succeeded in the Bharat context. But I think these are some of the challenges. Now, from an Edtech perspective, I can talk about a few things we are doing. Now, majority of our consumers, live classes, app users, all of them come from tier 2, tier 3 markets, right? And therefore, one is, so for instance, when we offer live classes, we offer them in 8 different languages, right? While English is part of everything that we speak, it's a mix. So we talk in Tamilish to a Tamil Nadu audience. There's a mix of Malayalam and English to a Kerala audience and so on, right? Now, Hindi constitutes about 50% of the consumer base. And if I look at every other segment, they're all double-digit sort of segments, right? So one of the ways is you conduct classes in multiple languages. You essentially have a very, very light sort of interface. They need to say the teacher. They need to be able to see what the teacher is presenting, and that's pretty much it. You don't want anything else to be streamed to them because that's going to consume additional data packets, right? Very basic. I'm just leaving it at that. Again, the engineering underlying that is complex. But the most fundamental level, you just give them what they want, and often we actually turn off video feeds of every other child who is in the class so that they're not consumed. So stuff like that, right? Yeah. So those are the ways some of these companies are solving these problems. But it's still an unsolved problem. And as businesses grow, mature, as India's GDP grows, as we start making that journey towards $1 trillion economy, top 3 economy in the world, etc., we have to figure this out. Income levels will rise, but they're not going to rise dramatically high. And sooner or later, almost everyone in the room is going to be grappling with how to solve for this consumer base. I think Karra,
I can sort of I can give us a little different perspective also, right? I mean, we're talking about rural India versus and then urban India. When you look at international companies at the scale of Facebook, Google, and all that, these companies are looking at emerging markets versus developed markets, right? So many of the challenges we're talking about, in terms of resource constrained devices and lower income, when you look at it from a Western perspective, which is where these companies are based, India as a whole looks like very similar to how this conversation we've been focusing on, versus urban India versus rural India. Fundamentally, very Android oriented. Monetization is still a problem. These companies are not making huge amounts of money compared to how much money they're putting in, right? From public records and so on. So so fundamentally, it's about but how do product managers approach this kind of situation? It comes down to user behavior, cultural context, how are they different, and resources available. So just to give you an example, in the West, Gmail and Google accounts are sort of essentially one and the same. People use Gmail is the most popular Google product, And it's sort of inconceivable for the Western audience to think of a Google account without having Gmail, right? Whereas if you see in India, and majority of the people don't even know they have a Gmail account, because they go to a shop, they buy an Android phone, and then the shopkeeper sets up a Google account, and the user will not even know that they have email account, right? Because they don't care. So how as a product company, how they communicate with the user? Normally in the West, they would communicate using send an email to notify the user. But here, in an Android-only world where the user does not even know they have email, you have to communicate and reach them in very different ways. So I think, monetization still remains a challenge.
Yeah. So I think we did cover a lot of ground with regards to product management per se. And I see in the chat that there are in the audience people like Mitra who are interested in knowing about the skills if they want to make a transition. So maybe we can go to the career part. And before we go to the details, maybe I'll ask each one of you to tell us about maybe top 3 skills that you think will be required to be a successful product manager, right? As a career, to have a product management as a career. What are the top 3 skills each one of you think should be there? We'll then have the entire bucket of the skills required, and it will help the audience. Please. What sort of 3 top skills you think you need to have as a successful product manager?
Maybe I'll go first this time.
Yes.
So we look for 4 skills, at Google in terms of hiring product managers, right? First, basic skill is product insight and product design and vision, right? So when you look at a product, which could be a software product, it could be a hardware product, it could be a SaaS, it could be a installable software, whatever, it doesn't matter. But when you look at it, you should be able to sort of analyze it from what is the purpose of this product? Is it actually doing, is it serving that purpose? And having opinions and sort of an idea about is it a good product or a bad product, right? So that is fundamentally, in short, is what product sense is about. And this is very important because this is something that we are not taught in B schools, right? A lot of the other skills that we required, either we are pre-selected for those skills or we are taught those skills, right? So this is very important. The second is communication. A product manager is at the center of, it's a multidisciplinary kind of an effort or a team, like we were talking about earlier on. And so being able to synthesize that information from all of these things, create a sort of a cohesive story and a vision, and communicate that cohesive story back to these people, sales, marketing, engineering, PR, and so on, all of these, and leadership. So being able to sort of take in and also generate and spread clarity, right? So communication is not just about whether you can talk English or whether you can motivate a large crowd. That is also good. But fundamentally, it's about generating clarity and making sure the clarity is there, right? Other skills that we look for are, leadership. In FANG companies, like Vishy was saying, product management is the leadership track. Sundar Pichai joined as a junior PM and now is the CEO of Google. So that is a transition or a career path for a PM. So leadership skill, whatever that level, they're expected to sort of demonstrate leadership and team management and those kind of skills at that level. And lastly, expertise and execution, right? I think at the end of the day, I was talking about increasingly you cannot just become a generalist PM and survive for too long. You need to develop that expertise, understand very deeply what the user problems are, and being able to sort of generate the right solutions for that user problem. So expertise and execution is a fourth. So to summarize, in my mind, we got product insight and vision, we got communication, we got leadership, and expertise.
Right. Others would like to add some other skills they think are also important.
Like Google, I think Sriram had summarized all the things. I'll mostly go with the soft skills. I think few soft skills that are required is one is customer centricity, very, very important. Second is first principle thinking, which certainly means looking at just not looking at 36,000 feet view, but also breaking down each and every user journey and see what's happening where. So from user requirement perspective to tracking the behavior of the user and the impact that the product is creating. And the third one is negotiation. So if the leader is not able to, product leader is not able to negotiate because he or she is in between all the teams together. So they need to negotiate with sales, negotiate with tech team, negotiate with leadership, negotiate with team down. So negotiation, customer centricity, and first principle thinking.
Right, that's great. So I think we are covering most of the pretty exhaustive list, or is there anything we are leaving out which any other member would like to add?
One, I can make it a little more complicated for people because now they might start thinking that, okay, if these are the kind of skills required for product management together from Sriram, Peeyush, Manoj, and Vishi, then it is really a tough battle. So one of the most important attributes for a product manager is to be data driven, because a product manager has to take decisions almost like every single day, and then sometimes it is every single hour, and then you are listening from thousands of customers and thousands of people around you, so the number of stakeholders are very high. So if you go by your own gut feel or maybe the gut feel of somebody else, you have to kind of defend it with data. So it is always a data first, and you always mix it up with your gut feel at times when there is no data, but data has to be at the center of your decision making. Otherwise, most of the times product managers can be just busy 80% of their times without giving any ROI to the company because they never looked at the data. So data is extremely important. And the second thing which typically works for product managers in niche domains is to have some domain expertise. So for example, if you are building something into fintech, just getting into fintech, having no idea about how the finance industry works for that specific thing, it will be a hard battle for you to kind of really do justice to that job. So either you should have a domain expertise in advance, or you should build one when you are building product, especially when the product is not a journalist kind of a product. So yeah, I think these are two.
So interesting. Manoj, you brought us to the next question, which we thought we should discuss. See, what is happening is, particularly for early stage product managers, we had the discussion the other day that there is, as you correctly said, there is data available to you, a lot of it. And there is also a little bit of gut feel, a little bit of talking to the customer. And then this balancing of how much to take from data and how much to take from the customer or your gut feel side. Any inputs you people can give which will help aspiring product manager? Maybe from your experience, that okay, initially when I started, this is how I looked at data and this is how I looked at gut feel. And then as I transitioned over time, now this is what plays a bigger role, or this is how they are balanced out. Would you like to share something in that area? That will be very helpful, I guess.
Sure.
For our transitioning product. Yes. Please.
So let me take a first shot at it. So data is very important. We use a lot of experimentation and A/B testing and those kinds of things to make very micro level decisions as well, and also macro level trends also, right? When what is the population, where is the growth, and target population, and so on and so forth. But so it is important. But I want to sort of make sure that the data is not everything. Like so, gut feel when it comes to that. There's also only a finite amount of time you have to do experimentation. So somebody needs to decide which experiments to run. That itself is a gut feel, right? So even if you want to decide to be very data driven, deciding which data to look at or how to collect that data itself is requires gut feel. So you cannot, as a product manager or a leader, you cannot operate without having a strong gut feel for the problem space, right? This is why this product design vision and product sense is very important.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is that to an extent, what you're venturing into should be known to you. That means this is the sort of a product which I'm going to give in this sort of a space to a customer, and then go ahead and see that's possibly a little bit of gut feel because you really don't have anything in front of you at that point in time. And then you go ahead and try to get your, your customer data. You other hard data, and see how much of that can be used to support, elaborate on what you have been thinking. Is that a right approach, or is that what you're talking about, Sriram and Manoj, you people?
Yeah, so that's a good approach. So in 0 to 1 journey, I think quick prototyping is very important, because you can't get obsessed about everything in front of you, and then you just keep waiting endlessly to kind of have that best case scenario. I mean, that is never going to happen in the early days. So in the early days, I think rapid prototyping, shipping it out, and let the consumer start using it, and let consumers be your guide and kind of guys who give you those early signals and early feedback, and then you can keep building on in that process. So 0 to 1, I think.
So exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, we heard about how in the early days Xiaomi worked. Xiaomi's entire team of development, technology development, were actually user groups, and so these user groups would regularly give them a feedback on what is working, what is not working, what needs to be developed, what features are essential but missing, and that helps Xiaomi to develop. So are you telling something like that? Are you telling that sort of an approach?
Yeah.
Are you referring to
Yeah,
like
so
that?
that is a good approach. And then to make it little more process oriented, so that, because product manager has to work with multiple people together, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to please everyone, but I mean, you have to make sure that most of the stakeholders have a good buy-in in what you are doing. So people can also use some of these frameworks. There are so many frameworks which are available and which are time tested by product managers in terms of how do they prioritize things, etc., etc. So there are RISE frameworks, Moscow, and so on. So they also give you some directions to how you can navigate the complex situations which are in front of you.
So, Professor, just to add to all this panel's point, because I do work on this particular space. So basically, in nutshell, just to summarize, the data is basically most of the product managers will basically get deviated from the what data they see. They get excited when they see that most of the users are using. So I'll have to enhance this particular feature, but they don't look at the what value I'm going to derive or how much cost I'm going to incur to basically develop this. So basically, you will have to look at what product you are building. Is it for B2B or B2C? Because the dynamics for B2B and B2C is completely different. B2C will have a lot of data. B2B, at the end of the day, you will have very, very limited information. That is one. Second, again, what's your company's risk appetite? Some companies do spend a lot of money to basically take risk and get response from the customer base. They develop something and they want to understand more from the customer base so that they can enhance their product. So, this more of a company's dynamics. And then third point is basically at what stage you are in. Are you in 0 to 1 or 10 to 100 or 100 to something else? So each phase, the data, what you're going to consume is very critical. So you will have to cut your data in this format and try to see how you're going to leverage that. Don't get, as a product manager, you should not get excited about the information, the abnormal or probably more information in front of you. We'll have to see what is the end objective of your data.
Right. And anybody else would like to add? Because we would now, so we are looking at sort of entrant into product management role, because we need to now go to the other aspect. If there is anybody else who want to add anything, Viswanathan,
So
want to add, or anybody?
see, just the practitioner view on this, right? I think like it has been pointed out, data is important. Data plus gut feel is how you make decisions for various reasons, because there's limited time, limited capital for experimentation, and you have to take your calls. But the metric that you choose to assess how good that decision was, choice of that metric becomes critical, right? So a lot of times what happens is people pick the wrong metric. So for instance, if you pick a metric which is 2 degrees or 3 degrees removed from a feature that you have shipped, you won't know what changed, right? So therefore the choice of that metric, and that's where I've seen a lot of mid-level product managers going wrong. They pick a metric which is right in the Uber scheme of things, but it's not something on which I can base my next decision. right? So let's say, as an example, let's say you're doing something to drive up revenue, right? Now, maybe your goal is, I want to drive this feature will drive up revenue by 10%, for instance, right? But that 10% is also a function of how marketing is behaving, how sales is behaving, what's going on in the consumer context, etc. Right? Now, if you take that as your metric, you will not know whether the feature that you shipped did it move the needle or not. Instead, if you say, look, in the sales funnel, this particular mid funnel, I want a 10% increase. And if that's your metric, then your decisions are better, right? So this is, I think, the problem with product managers is they get data, they get user centricity, but which metric to pick is where I have often seen teams a little off. And the second is a lot of these product managers come from pedigree, right? IIT, IIM, they like numbers. So there's this obsession with a lot of data as well. So unless you start with a hypothesis and use data to validate or invalidate that hypothesis, it's easy for you to get lost in detail. So I've seen teams coming and presenting to me, this is correlated with this. Then Mike, okay, so what? You don't need data to tell me this. I understand, right? And maybe the correlation is some number, but it doesn't move the needle for me, right? So I think having a hypothesis, using data to validate or invalidate is a better approach than sort of flying blind into the data. And there's a lot of people are right-brained, like numbers. Yeah, this is just a practitioner's view on a few things to be cautious about. That's all.
Yeah, so very, very interesting inputs from everybody on this, what you need to be careful and cautious about. So now going into the other issue of career, like one gentleman here might have said that I have 10 years in product support, how do I transition to product management? There is a much basic level question which had come up, that I have been, for quite a period of time, I have been a tech lead and how to in IT, and I want to transition to product management. So my concern is that as a tech lead, I have been more inward focused in the company maybe, and the instructions on what I have to do has come from others in the company and I have executed it. But as a product manager, I have to now go and face the different stakeholders, as you said. And that transition, if some of you have made the transition and many of you have worked in different roles, what are the challenges to make the transition? What are some of the ballpoint issues that you must keep in mind? If you can just tell us. This is a transition role into a product management role when you have had a reasonable amount of experience in a much more inward focused role in the organization. How would you look at that?
I think I'll take this question since I have made a transition, and I can relate very well to the love for product management. So first of all, why do we make transition is one question that we need to answer for ourselves. Am I not liking my job, or is the other job lucrative? And why is it lucrative? Is it because of the money involved, or because I like doing that job? So that's the first question that one should answer before making a transition. So I'd say money should not be the factor. It should be the passion. It should be the love for the different function that you want to move to, be it product management or any other function. So for this, number one, product management essentially means you are coordinating with a lot of other functions. So the skill sets that are required, do you have specific skill sets, or can you build on those skill sets? Communication, coordination, leadership, negotiation, and other skill sets that were mentioned. These are soft skill sets. Apart from that, other technical skill sets, they always can be learned and built upon. So if you have a basic customer-centric mindset where you want to solve the problems bit by bit by going deep down, breaking problem into a smaller set of problems, then you can always make a transition from any role to a product management role. However, it is very important to also know when you move from one role to another, you also carry that baggage. I'll call it baggage. So, so essentially, something like when you move from one life to another life, you have memories of the previous life, and then it creates problem. So you have to give up your previous life and move into a new life where you function as a product manager. So at times what happens is if a person moves from sales, let's say, or IT to product management, they might be carrying that baggage along with them and maybe get much more involved with the technical requirements at that point of time, how coding is being done. Let's say person is moving from development. So they might get involved more with the tech team. Why it is being done this way? Why are you coding this way? So those baggages have to left behind. So essentially you live up to the role that has been defined for you. You carry that role along with. So in the whole transition, just not in the external role, means the tag, but also internally you have to move and build upon the skill sets that are required. Many a times, not all organizations might respect you move, but there will be organizations which are looking for people from different backgrounds for different reasons to build a product function. I can share my example. I moved at Karra from my previous avatar, which was into sales and account management. So at Karra, I got a role which was a mix of, it was bootstrap company. So it was a mix of product management. It was a mix of account management, a lot of analytics, sales. And when I started building functions, so I got the opportunity to meet the customers, meet customers at all the ends, and also build a product according to the requirement. While I was in field, I could understand what customer needs and why this need is very, very important for specific customers. So, so that gave me a very strong advantage to function as a product manager. And then I moved into product management role.
Right. So this is a very good example. Yeah. Would anybody else also like to give some inputs to the audience on from their experience?
I can do that. So like I mentioned earlier on, I joined a IT services company, Tech Mahindra, out of campus, and then I spent 5 years there before I moved into product management. And if you spend that much amount of time in a completely different kind of an industry and a role, you become you're gaining expertise there, and your resume starts to look very different, right? So there's a very tactical problem of transition, which is if you have 5 years of pre-sales post MBA, and then you were doing something else before MBA. And then, why should a recruiter even shortlist your resume for a product manager role? So this is a very, I face this problem, nobody would give me a call, but I used to keep getting cold calls for pre-sales roles. So there is no one answer to this solution, right? You have to think about it and see how best, you can leverage your own strength. And I can tell you what I did, right? It may or may not be applicable to you, but what I decided is, okay, so I looked at, okay, what can I do with my skills, and I realized that I used to be a programmer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a product, and I actually built a Twitter bot using Twitter's API and put it on GCP at that time, App Engine, and this is a working product. Where you can send a tweet to that app. It will and check for PNR status. So you can give a PNR number. It will say send back a current status of the PNR number, all using tweets. Okay. And then I went to ClearTrip and MakeMyTrip and said, I want to sell this product to you. Okay. MakeMyTrip did not even respond. ClearTrip said, okay, we're not interested in buying the product, but we can offer you a product manager role. Okay. So that's how I got my break into product management. So this is not really a scalable solution that will work for everybody, but you got to think outside the box, because you need to overcome that baggage on your resume, which is very, very important.
So get yourself to, your work somewhere should speak for you, your application. That, okay, yes, I am capable of doing this, and therefore you should consider me.
That is one way to do it, yes.
Yeah. That's one way, yeah. Anybody else would like to add? Because I think this is an interesting area where a lot of people would want to know. Product management, how do I get into it? I've been doing something else. So anybody else would like to add anything? Of course, if you have been in product management in entrepreneurial companies where I'm always responsible from the beginning in product development, maybe that's something difficult to answer. But if any of you want to share any other experience, or you think any other capability, like very good approach Sriram has said, and then I think Peeyush has shared his experience. If you want to, Then and then we did talk about, and I think this question has been properly discussed about the dilemma between data and gut feel, and lots of information. Vishy gave a lot of very good information. All of us, all the panel members gave. So we may not want to get into that. We're already running into more than an hour's time. So let us just look at try to shift gears and move into looking at how will product management look like in future. In that connection, I would just like to ask you the first question that, now we are bombarded with this idea of AI, ML, virtual reality. I have had opportunity to look at companies, talk to some companies who work extensively on virtual reality, and they see a lot of business opportunity there, to the extent like, one of them is developing virtual reality based training sessions. So if you have a hazardous job like a fire fighting job, chemical plant job, or a steel plant job, they're developing virtual realities for those companies to train their employees on. You can't create a hazardous situation in real life. So it has found application extensively. So when it comes to product management, and they are like, in that case, it is actually a packaged product which they would like to sell to these companies for training purposes, right? So similarly, what do you see would be the impact of AI, ML, virtual reality, and then of course ChatGPT in product management going forward? Now, would you like to tell us a little about that? What is your view?
I can add a few things, and then others
Yes.
can.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the chat GPTs and the AI, ML, etc., but little more into the fundamentals that, see, largely the fundamentals of product management will never change. They will always remain the same, that you take the customer problem, you solve the customer problem beautifully. So anything which comes without having a customer problem in the center is largely a fad, and it dies down its own death in sooner or later. And we have seen so many things which created a lot of noise, and then they just faded. So and the problems will keep coming. So every solution is also creation of a new problem. So today it is something, tomorrow there will be something else. And so what I'm trying to say here is that people should not be getting over obsessed, or maybe afraid, or they should not get fearful about things like AI, ML, ChatGPT, etc., because it's a journey. Product management is a journey. There will be new innovations almost every year. Last year it was maybe crypto. Last year it was blockchain. A few years back everyone was talking about big data. Now big data is small talk. So these things will keep happening, but as long as your fundamentals are good, and if you are closely looking at the customer problems, and if you are able to think from that angle, that okay, what would be a great solution for this customer problem, you will always do very well as a product manager, or whatever you do in the areas around product management. So that is what I wanted to share before we get into chat GPTs.
Yes,
Professor, this is Bhaskar. So we'll be wrapping up in next 15 minutes. So before we wrap up,
we'll take this. We'll take this question and then open to audience, couple of questions, and we'll finish.
Yeah, and Professor, that ultimate question that I think most of the people have asked: what is the future of product management? Is it going to be very
that's the one
alien to the current
product
managers? Yes, Professor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Sriram, you were saying something.
Yeah, sure. I think Vishu was also trying to say that. Anyway, I'll go. I can go. The way to think about this, right, is when it's a new technology or a disruptive, a new thing, you can look at it as in two angles. What is it going to what is the impact it is going to have on your existing business and product? Is it an opportunity? So for that, you need to deeply understand the opportunities of the technology, and whether you can incorporate those developments into your existing products so that you don't get disrupted, right? The second way to you can look at it is, as an individual, is it an opportunity for you? Is it like, is all of the new opportunity existing outside your problem space? And is that the wave that you want to ride, right? For example, every new disruptive opportunity is basically people are starting from zero. There is nobody, or at least 1 year back, there was nobody with ChatGPT experience. Even now, like only people have only 1 year of ChatGPT experience. So you're not at a significant disadvantage compared to people, who have, whatever payments experience, right? There are people with deep payments expertise. So these are maybe the opportunities that are, where your lack of experience or expertise is no longer a problem. So you can try to ride that wave. So look at it as these two things when you evaluate new technologies, and in all of these cases, an AI is definitely a big thing, and great opportunities in both of these dimensions.
Right.
Completely agree. Completely agree. I think it's a tool, right? End of the day, these are tools. Now you have an axe, you have a sharper axe, you have the sharpest axe, right? You still need someone to cut the tree, right? So I think this is going to make product management, it's a tool which you need to use. Having said that, there are certain places where AI will have disproportionate impact within growth marketing, for instance, right? ChatGPT is very good with user stories, creatives, etc., etc. Now you tie that back with data. It is possible for you to you can operate with much smaller growth teams if you bring in ChatGPT as right. So there are certain places where it is going to have disproportionate impact. But I think that the core of product management also is insights, right? So like brands, products are built on insights. And insights are insights because they are not common knowledge, right? Now, all the tools, what they spew out is a function of what they are trained on, right? There are LLM has to be trained on something for it to give you relevant answers. And insights are not that common for an LLM to sort of throw that out. So there's no way it's going to fully replace people, but there are very clearly, it can help you think through various situations. So it does make your day job better. From the company's context, obviously, each company needs to evaluate. So in Edtech, for instance, we are looking at what can this do for us, right? Is a virtual tutor a reality now, or an assisted tutor, is that a reality? So that's the opportunity that ChatGPT throws up in the Edtech space, for instance. So every company needs to look at what does this mean. Again, like tying this back to the previous question, anyone who wants to make a switch into product management from a different line, I think this is a great opportunity because no one knows this space, right? You're not competing with someone else who has decades of experience in a certain space. So this is a great way for you to, and all of these
point that Sriram was trying to make.
Exactly.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You can, so for instance, like the bot that Karra created. Now, Karra, I know I've known him for a long time. It's easy for him to create, but with tech like ChatGPT, it's possible for most people in this room also to create such tools, right? So because a lot of the tech is now commoditized, it's available in the form of APIs. You have to think like a system integrator, put it together, make it relevant to a consumer use case, and then you have a good tool, right? So I think that's a way to look at the whole thing.
Yeah, one quick question to all of you. I mean, you have started companies, you have run companies, and been product managers, large companies, small companies. Are there issues of succession in product management? That means, see, this product is my baby, and therefore, when I move on, either as a company, in the company itself, or outside, is there a succession issue that who is the right person to take the role of a product manager? I think it has. I mean, that happens in the industry.
Sir, with succession, you are more referred to the emotional attachment with the product.
Not really. I mean, like it's all, yeah, that is part of it. But more than emotional attachment, I want the product. Say Steve Jobs would have wanted Tim Cook to take the company, thinking about the new generation of products in a certain direction, and he might have thought that Tim Cook is the right person to make my dreams continue in that particular direction. So in that sense, I'm saying, do you think there is a succession issue? I mean, many of you are yourself product managers. So when you move on, would you like a succession?
See, I think the product management is, I think someone pointed out, there's a lot of money in product management, right? So there's a huge glut of people wanting to come in. There's a lot of talented people who want to come in, right? So personally, I don't think there is any dearth of talent. There are really good people out there. So to answer your specific question, I don't see that as an issue at all. In my org or in any of the previous orgs, I've not faced this issue.
Yeah. Let me give a slight different take on this, right? So when I joined from ClearTrip, I went to a startup, and I was the first product manager hired. It's a very small company. They were hiring the first product manager, because they wanted to scale. And so there was this is a very common problem for all successful startups, right? But then we've also find that the founders typically, they have a successful product, which means that they've done something right. And then, so they need to firstly hire the right person and also be able to sort of, give up their child in some sense for them to also scale. So this is definitely a real thing. Unfortunately, I don't think we have enough time to look into it in more detail, but maybe some of the founders can have a quick word.
Yes, I'll just talk about that, right? So the reason I run product org in BYJUS is they needed an entrepreneur looking at this, right? So I don't come from craft. A lot of people in this room come from craft. Manoj and me don't come from craft, right? We come from the other side. We come from the entrepreneurial side. So I don't come with craft, but I come with business understanding of strategy, understanding of how to get things done. I work well with people. So a lot of ways in which founders deal with this is they acquire companies, they get good founders in.
But yes, it's a good debate. So any quick word, otherwise we will slowly, any quick word from Manoj, Peeyush?
Yeah. So I typically suggest that it should be horses for courses, whatever you do as a company. So if you are building a product, it has to be a great product guy building the product, because otherwise you will massively go wrong. And the second thing is that in the early days of building the product manager has to stay in the company for the time he's building the product, because if there are multiple changes in the product management team within that building life cycle, it will come out as a crappy product, because the person A who built it is passing it on to person B, and B is passing it on to C, and nobody is actually owning it in a big way. But teams can change once you are at scale. So at a scale, there is a muscle memory within the company, so you can you have processes, etc. Then those changes are perfectly fine. But early days, I think it has to be a good team which stays there for at least few years.
I have some thoughts around this. I think passing on the baton, whether it is in product management or in a business, let's say we take example of family business, it is more about how that baton is being passed on from one team to another. The culture in the company might be very different. The product might be in a very different shape. There might be a lot of, let's say, a very good culture or a very bad culture might be happening. So in case, if the culture is very good, hand-holding and passing on the vision for the product happens very smoothly and easily. Or if the culture is not good, there might be, product manager might be answerable to a lot of things which might have happened in past. And that creates hand-holding or passing on the baton a very big problem for the new person to stay in that role. So I would say it depends more on the leadership and the culture of the company, how that baton is being passed.
Thank you. I mean, excellent discussion, I would believe. Bhaskar and Rambabu, would you like to open any more questions to the audience?
I think a couple of questions. I think we have addressed most of the questions.
Professor, actually, we have received a lot of excellent questions. So, but we think that it's not possible to answer all these questions right now. So we have collected them. Maybe we can analyze again among you and panelists, and then we can answer in the WhatsApp product management group that we have. What do you suggest, Professor?
No, Professor, we may have to. Yeah. We will just take 5 minutes. We'll just take 5 minutes. Couple of dimensions which we did not
and
answer
take 2-3 top of the mind line questions.
One is
since we have the panelists here.
Sure. Yeah. One is how does a product management function different between B2B and B2C scenario? One. Two, as a product manager, you also would need to understand how do you want to price your product. Though you may not be playing a key role in pricing your product, but you need to understand the pricing point. So if you address these two topics, then probably we can conclude.
So see, B2B and B2C product are very, very different. that's for sure. And they are differentiated. So while hiring, you might get a question while during the interview or before the interview. You might get a question from the hiring manager. Are you a B2B person or are you a B2C person? So the difference lies in how you understand customer cycle. In B2C, there will be a lot of data. You might not meet your customer directly most of the time. However, in B2B, you will get a lot of opportunity to meet the customer, to understand their need, to understand their psyche, and use that into your product. Now, here comes that question that we had discussed earlier, gut feel versus data. So what my perspective is, even gut feel is a lot of data, which is built from the impressions that we were exposed to in our past and in our current. So that data can be personal, that data can be exposure to businesses, that data can be exposure to other users out there. That is what gut feel is. However, that gut feel might be, again, because of somebody who makes the loudest noise among your customers in a B2B scenario. That gut feel might lead you move towards a requirement from requirement going towards building a product which is for that specific person who is making a noise. So you have to go with a lot of data plus customer interview. So the difference between the two is that in B2B, you certainly need to meet customers and use data to validate what customers are saying. In B2C, there might be lot of data analytics, persona creation, classification of customers, and then building the product upon that. Did I answer the question in entirety?
Yes. Any other panelists have any view on this?
I mean, it's not an easy one for in a short time, but at a very high level, I mean, in B2B, the feedback loops are very fast. I mean, you get the feedback very early on, whereas in B2C, it might take many years. So you will see a lot of B2C companies which don't have any revenue for even 5 years or 10 years, just like WhatsApp. So B2C requires funding early on because you may not look at the revenue in the early days, whereas B2B are largely EBITDA centric, profit centric, orgs, etc., etc. So there are multiple things. We are just scratching few things here and there.
I'll just chime in that, there are some, I've included links or names of 2 excellent books that answer this question in more detail than we have time here for. So please, if you're interested in transitioning to PM role or you want to get better at it, please read both the books. Very, very good.
Excellent. Excellent. So is there anything left out or should we slowly wind this session?
Pricing is something we can cover.
Pricing issues. Anything to anybody would like to make a comment on the pricing issue?
Yeah, pricing, I would again, so in one of the roles, I manage the pricing, and so that was at Molarity, where pricing was more concentrated towards the lower or smaller pricing packs being used by customers, and that there was a lot of leakage of revenue on that front. So as a product manager, I had to look at a lot of data and redesign the entire pricing. So pricing might, in some cases, may be a function of the product management team. And when we change that pricing models, users actually move from smaller pricing to bigger pricing as and when their usage increase. So we looked at the behavior, we looked at the pricing, we looked at a lot of other data points and created a new pricing model. So pricing depends on company, on function. It might come under a product manager function as well.
Pricing is a large topic on its own, right? It's driven by But what a digital product enables you to do is really experiment, figure out pricing. You can figure out whether something is working or not very quickly in a digital product. In the offline world, that discovery takes much longer, but it is possible for you to get to these answers very, very quickly via various experiments, right? That's the good thing around, and product managers can facilitate that. But overall pricing is a function of, it's a much more complex topic, which I don't think we can do justice in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. So, should we wind up here, and let me end the session by profusely thanking the panelists for giving their valuable time on a weekend, and also the people attending this session, that on a weekend you have the patience to listen and participate in these discussions. I hope, I believe we will be sharing the video with the participants, so you can go back and revisit many of the points that the panelists have made. And there would be some interesting references that have been given by the panelists. I believe for more inputs, you can always be in touch with the panelists, and in the process, know more about product management. Best of luck with your product management role. And thank you, panelists. And of course, I should not forget thanking the back office and support team of Bhaskar, Sumit, and Rambabu, who did an excellent job in organizing the pre-meetings and now the panel discussion in this for this alumni activity. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you, panelists, and thank you all, and thank you, organizing team.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was a very insightful session.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.